Bowl season is here. Are you ready to cash in on what you know? Where you play is as important as what you play. The pros play at mybookie.ag. All the lines, odds, and plays, both college and pro, all at mybookie.ag. Play where you get paid super fast and there's never a hassle. Step up and mybookie.ag will match your deposit with up to a 50% bonus. Use promo code JJ50 to activate the offer. Don't leave the money on the table. mybookie.ag, promo code JJ50, and your first deposit is matched up to 50%. Play where the pros play because they get paid. mybookie.ag.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head to death. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me a boom.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, Del?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
And we
Center
are Jalen
stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax.
And we are Jalen Jacoby on ESPN Radio and ESPN 2. What do we do?
We get to find an individual that has supported this program 6 years, exactly what they want, more importantly, when they need it, via radio, podcast, television at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m.
Shout out.
We had a television show today, but you know we're always going to leave you a dope pod to step to with some exclusive podcast content. We got to give it to you. We never leave the people without a dope pod to step to.
Yes,
Big
indeed.
weekend in sports. One thing that we didn't get to go into depth on the television show you're about to listen to would be the fight. You know, because KD was being socially awkward on social media. Big fight weekend in the NFL, so there wasn't that much time to get to the fight. But I felt I was upset after the fight when it went to a draw because I felt the Triple G won. But here's the thing. After a little bit of time passed and I really just thought about it, and I said, you know what? The people won. The people won this fight because we get to see this fight again. Like, the draw is the way. I think it ended in a draw because that was going to result in the most money for the sport and the most money for the parties involved. I honestly believe that boxing is corrupt and you just follow the money, and we're going to end it up in a rematch now. But we get to see this fight again. Are you more concerned about the corruption or happy that we get to see the rematch?
I'm a longtime fight fan, not one of those fly-by-night ones who get a chance to talk about it on television and act like I was going to fights 20 years ago. I was really living that life and still am. I'm truly disappointed for the sport of boxing. Anytime one of the judges has it as a landslide for Canelo, it speaks to the integrity of the sport. Now, had the judge made it 115, 113, something a lot more credible and or legitimate, then I would feel exactly the way you feel, because there was going to be a second fight regardless, whether it was a draw or not. As long as one of those guys didn't go out on the stretcher and wasn't able to continue his career in boxing, there was going to be a second fight regardless. And so to see these two gladiators in the ring giving us an exciting night of fighting. Like, I fell asleep before the Floyd and McGregor fight. I went back and watched that fight, and one instance in that fight stands out to me. Floyd was standing arm's length away from McGregor, and McGregor threw two punches, and he didn't move his face, and he still wasn't hit. It was just the opposite when I was watching Triple G and Canelo. Both of these guys continued to press, while Triple G was the aggressor. Canelo continued to be a counter-puncher who did it with power. I felt Triple G won in a close match. I agree with our esteemed colleague and my good friend Teddy Atlas with his commentary after the fight. I'm going to get him on our program to talk about it, because the passion and the disappointment that he had, I felt like it was me on television talking about it, because that's exactly how I felt. And in boxing, there's no true leagues. There's no governing body.
No.
There's no oversight. There's no Dana White.
Yep.
There's no Roger Goodell.
Nope.
There's no Adam Silver.
Nope.
And so what ends up happening in boxing is we get a chance to see two of the best at optimum performance in the ring. And we're enthusiastic about it. And then when you hear the decision, you're like, really? Like, come on now.
I mean, I could see a world in which you gave the first 3 rounds to Canelo and the last 3 rounds to Canelo. I could see that. I think it's possible that it could be a draw. I don't think you could construe it where Canelo won. It's just, but I could definitely see it being a draw. I really enjoyed watching the fight. I felt like Canelo looked a little gassed in the middle of the fight there. I don't know what he was doing up against the ropes in every round. It was just like this, dude, this is Triple G here. Like, come on, what are you doing?
Well, here's what he was doing. He was trying to stay out of the middle of the ring so he wouldn't be laying down looking up at the lights. Mm-hmm. That's what he was doing. And he was trying to do his best to absorb those shots and be a counter puncher. But again, for those who don't care about the 118 and 110 score, you got to remember this. We go to sports for a result, for an outcome, a legitimate one, which is why they keep score. That's right. That actually happens at sporting events. They keep score. And when I see the score and it's a landslide for Canelo, I wonder, man, how much money that judge got paid.
So here's the thing. Let's go down this road, though, because I was thinking about this, too. I was like, all right, there's no way that could be a legitimate score from someone who's not like my 4-year-old Quincy. You know what I mean? Like, for someone who gets paid to do this, there's no way they could legitimately think that was the case. So this must be corrupt. But Jalen, let's go down this road. If you were a corrupt judge, why wouldn't you make the fight closer? Because it's not cumulative points from each judge that decides the fight. So if you were a corrupt judge, why would you make it so obvious that you were delivering a corrupt result?
That's the disappointing part, when the corruption becomes flagrant.
That's the thing. I don't understand. There's no reason. There's no motivation to make it that way.
It's almost like you're going to make sure that not only Canelo won the fight, but he was dominant. That's what that screamed to me. And again, nothing against the fighters. They perform admirably.
Sure.
But I'm so disappointed in the sport. And this continues to talk to the credibility of boxing, which is why casual fans continue to be turned off by the sweet science. And that disappoints me because I love the sport so much.
Watching some of those replays, I was just so impressed with how Triple G can take a punch. Like it was he would get hit. This Canelo, one of the hardest hitting fighters in boxing, and Triple G would take some pretty flush shots on the chin and just kind of duck his head and stay moving forward. It was impressive.
This is why when he went into that fight, he hadn't lost. Mm-hmm. And so he keeps coming forward. And ultimately, he makes the other fighter decide. Either I go or you go. And that's where I give Canelo a lot of credit. And this is to your question, why he spent a lot of time on the ropes. Because you can't do those, you can't accept that level of punishment and stand in the middle of the ring. Or unfortunately, it ends up like my fellow Detroiter, Thomas Hitman Hearns, when that's right, I said it, we were in the ring against Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Wait, you're using the third person plural with boxers now? I mean, with teams I can get it, but with boxers?
The Motor City Cobra. Yeah, I said it.
Okay. I guess you said it. One thing we'll always do is give you what you want, give the people what they want. Part of doing that is taking voicemails. If you call 985-80-JALEN, you can leave us voicemails. Ladies, don't forget, leave us voicemails. Wednesday, we always celebrate the ladies in our lives and around the world. So ladies, make sure you leave us some voicemails for Wednesday's show. Let's listen to the first voicemail right now.
Jalen and Jacoby, what's happening, fellas? This is Gary on the check-in from the 203. I'm worried about Monday Night Football. My beloved New York Football Giants going up against the Lions. I'm scared. This offensive line is so bad that when the Cowboys show their offense, they show, Dak Prescott, they show us college, they show the Giants defense, JPP. Then they show the Giants when they get the ball. Third down, they're showing the players. They don't even get to the wide receivers, and Eli's already sacked. They don't even have enough time to show the Cowboys defense. I say, let's show the Cowboys defense next come around. 1, 2, 3, punt. No defense. Next, 1, 2, 3, punt. No defense. Halftime comes. They never showed the Cowboys defense. That's how bad the O-line is on the New York Football Giants. Now, I got a boss mover sophomore for you guys. I consider myself old man Gary now. I'm going to be 40 in November. DVR in the football game because you want to go to bed at halftime and then getting up in the morning and fast forwarding to the third and fourth and watching it blazing through the commercials. Boss move or soft move? Let me know. Later.
Go ahead, Jalen.
Thank you for the call, Gary. Appreciate you checking in from the 203.
Shout out.
I'm going to take the end first. It's always a boss move to DVR anything and go back to watch it.
And go
this
back
is
and
why
sleep?
it exists.
So the problem with that is it's a dangerous move because if you find out from a notification to your phone or you looked at Twitter or something, you find out the result, it ruins the experience for me.
Well, if you're going to take that as law, then we should eliminate what people complain about spoiler alerts then, because that's the exact same thing.
I suppose so.
That's number one. Number two, I don't want to hear this from the Giants fans. The game ain't even started yet. When Eli is in the Super Bowl and he eludes people and closes his eyes and throws it to David Tyree, oh man, Eli going to the Hall of Fame. Now when he about to play the Lions, now all of a sudden the Giants fans have excuses. I'm not buying it. Let me just say this. We've won one playoff game in the history of our franchise. I am not about to start getting overconfident against teams and talk about their weaknesses. Not gonna be able to do it. So when you listen to this podcast, you are not really me into that OMG, old man Gary. Not gonna be able to do it. Now, what you can do, I live with a Giants fan, and we're going to have a nice potluck going tonight. Why don't you tweet myself and or Molly Cameron, tell us what we should be betting on you guys' beloved Giants, because it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And I'm not making no crazy predictions. Not going to be able to do it, whether Odell plays or not plays.
Next question that we have is from Twitter. This is from Robbie. He said, who would win a rap battle, Lillard, Lance, or Lonzo? It's Lillard. That's not even close.
Lillard, not even close.
Lance and Lonzo just sing on autotune.
I
They don't
can't
really
even
rap.
front.
Yeah.
That's a disrespect to Dame Dollar.
Yeah, exactly. Dave's like, don't put my name in that sentence.
You get jammed up, don't mention
don't
his
mention
name
my
in
name
that.
right there. Come on. We got hit up by King23 Lewis on Twitter, and he gave us a screenshot from the new NBA 2K. And here is what what it says people are talking about, like the dialogue. I forgot what it's called. Subtitles are saying. Yeah, I'm the guy to teach you. I'm going to teach you professionalism, champagning, campaigning, handshakes, branding. They took champagning and campaigning at NBA 2K. Did you get a check for that? You get a check for that?
Nope.
Maybe
I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is why when you're watching our television show, a lot of our pet words I would love up on that blue screen, just so when people start to steal them, we understand where they got them from. Yep. I was just in L.A. walking downtown, right on the corner of Figueroa and Olympic. Look across the street, Suited and Booted is being used for a current movie. I'm like, yo, can we start getting some royalties or some shout-outs for this program?
Suited and Booted has been around for quite some
time. Biting our
Jalen.
business formats and techniques like rabies, like PMD would say. Man.
Let's listen to the next voicemail.
What up, Jalen? What up, Jacoby? Shout Reggie and the staff. I'm actually listening to your all's podcast right now, and I had to pause it because it got me thinking about something. You're talking about Victor Oladipo and saying that Scottie Pippen wasn't a superstar back in the 90s with the Bulls. Okay, so for someone born in 1993, like me and or probably Victor Oladipo, what kind of comparison is there to today's Scottie Pippen? Like, would the Heat teams being remembered as LeBron James's Heat teams kind of diminish Dwayne Wade's value in the same way in the future? Is that a good comparison? Because Dwayne Wade was obviously good enough to win on his own and a superstar in his own right. Or is Chris Bosh someone more like, was Scottie Pippen more like someone like Chris Bosh? Which isn't a bad thing, but not the same as Dwayne Wade. Hit me back.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate the love.
Shout out.
Glad you, A, are listening to the pod. B, really glad you put it on pause to call.
Yeah.
People should do that more often. Remember, the information is hot.
98580 Jalen. You know, memorize that number. Who knows when the inspiration strikes?
No doubt about it. I have a great example of who Scottie Pippen was.
Oh, okay.
and who he resembles in today's game.
I thought of somebody while he asked the question as well. See if we're on the same page.
Before he became an all-time great, he was LeBron James. Before LeBron James elevated to all-time great status, he was a point forward. Let me talk to you about the evolution of that position. Because, Reg, when I say Paul Pressey, you don't know who that is. What? That's a lie. Okay, the original. Now you graduate to players like Grant Hill, point forward. Scottie Pippen was similar to Grant Hill. That would be a different example for me. But that's probably older than this gentleman because Grant played when I played. He got drafted in '94. So he said today's game. If LeBron James had not elevated himself into top 10 conversation, that's who he was. I'm not talking about their physical attributes. LeBron James is physically more imposing. He's arguably he's a much better leaper. But when you talk about what their function as basketball players were, they were guys that could score the ball, but yet were really good passers, smart, defended multiple positions on defense, played multiple positions on offense, and would do whatever it took for the team to win that night. Swiss Army knives.
I think that's fair.
And I played against both of them.
Paul Pressey?
No.
Let's listen to the next voicemail.
Jalen, Jacoby, big fan of the pod. This is Bill calling from Akron, Ohio. I'm driving on Friday listening to Thursday's Day's podcast, and I literally had to stop the podcast and call you guys. 1, the Cleveland Browns. The mascot is not a fairy, it's an elf. 2, Jalen Rose. When was the last time that the Detroit Lions won a playoff game? Check the record for the Browns. It was 1994. Keep getting them checks, fellas.
Shout out to that guy. Definitely from Cleveland. Like he wasn't driving through Portland when he had those thoughts. We did cover the elf thing, too, by the way. I know you paused and called, but when you pushed play when you got off the phone, you know that we covered the elf thing.
Good call. Jacoby's all over that. Get the people what they want. So I'm not one of those media dudes that's a cheerleader for a squad blindly. When people make dumb decisions on the teams I root for or their name Jalen, if anything, I get on them more. That's how you get credibility in this industry, not cheerleading. That's 1. 2, when I'm talking about my Lions, as I just got finished saying 5 minutes ago on this podcast, nobody talks about them being as inept at winning playoff games except me. I talk all of the time about we've won one playoff game in the history of the franchise. I'm
going to write a strongly worded email to the league saying y'all shouldn't play on Thanksgiving anymore. For real. Like, those games are too important. They're too important to the day. The Lions game eat up 3.5 hours of my Thanksgiving every Thanksgiving.
No.
Y'all don't deserve that spot anymore.
We snuck something in on the rest of the world.
You're going to talk about being non-biased and being objective and how you get on your own team. Do you think that the Lions deserve that spot? The Cowboys deserve that spot.
Here's what happened. The Cowboys and Lions used to face one another initially. They went on to become America's team and win Super Bowls. We didn't.
Y'all went on to go 0-16.
Thanksgiving became our Super Bowl.
Okay.
You're going to see Aretha out there. She's still singing. She's the best.
Okay.
Big Sean on stage.
Shout out.
I'm going to probably be on stage this year. That's our Super Bowl.
The people want football. The people got football. First, congratulations, Jalen Rose. You are now officially in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. We are going to go through every single game from Week 2's Sunday, all in 10 minutes. Bring up the clock and start the clock. It's time to get it.
Let's get it. And thank you for your strongly worded email. Without that, I wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. That was mentioned that evening.
No problem. Jalen Rose, you say the good win of the week is the Falcons over the Packers. Why do you say that?
What ends up happening in football is we look for what's next. So what's going to happen with Tampa Bay? Or somebody that's already done it, like Seattle or the Packers, and we forget what's now. And for those that haven't been paying attention, when you have elite quarterback conversations and you talk about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Drew Brees, and rightfully so, I'm here to tell everyone the next name that should be coming out of everyone's mouth is Matthew Ryan, the reigning MVP. And when I watch the Falcons play football, they don't look like a team that's about to have a loss in the Super Bowl type of hangover like we saw a couple of years ago from the Carolina Panthers. These guys look faster, a lot more legit, playing in their new dome. The Atlanta Falcons are a team that people need to be talking about.
They lost Vic Beasley, but they do look good getting after the quarterback as they got after Aaron Rodgers last night. Moving on to your bad loss of the week, you say that is the Cowboys going down to the Broncos.
It is, because the level of vulnerability that they've shown when they can't run the football is painfully obvious. I appreciate the maturation process of Dak Prescott. Nobody can say that they saw him progressing this well, this fast. But the more he plays, it seems the less productive Dez Bryant is. That's his number one receiver. And all of a sudden, when you're able to stuff Ezekiel Elliott
8 yards
and
rushing,
hold them less than 10 yards rushing, their offense looked like it was being forced to pass the football, yet they weren't able to consistently do it up the field. It almost like they got exposed by the Denver Broncos. And Trevor Siemian was out there looking like
good.
John Elway.
4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Trevor Siemian, he was ignited by one of those lightning bolts that slowed the game down. I did love how the game got delayed, so it went all the way into the Sunday night game. Finally,
but let's not ignore the individual who basically got a concussion during the game, the wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. I know we celebrate American football, and rightfully so. I'm with you on that. But let's not overlook the fact that there was an individual that seriously got concussed by the Denver Broncos, fell out on the field, stood up, and fell out again like Trevor Burbank when he was fighting against Mike Tyson. Just something to look forward to.
the Seahawks only put up 12 points against the 49ers. Last week, they didn't look great on offense against the Packers. Is it time to be really worried about the Seattle Seahawks?
Well, it's time to be worried that eventually the defense is going to stop speaking to the offense.
Yep.
That's how this works. We know we the Legion of Boom. We know we love the fact that when people say that we got to the Super Bowl, it was on our backs. But now our backs are getting a little tired. And the offense has to find a way to be more productive. You want to see Doug Baldwin get loose. They talked about having a three-headed monster at the running back position. Mm-hmm. Now none of those three are actually running the football, which includes Eddie Lacy.
Chris Carson looked all right.
But they thought it was going to be precise. They talked about it being Lacy. Those guys aren't getting the lion's share of the carries anymore, and Russell Wilson still isn't getting protection from that offensive line.
Moving on, the Patriots looked like the Patriots blowing out the Saints. Is it time for the Saints to start thinking about life without Drew Brees?
It isn't time for them to start thinking about life without Drew Brees. You know how to fix that? You come with a blank check and say, sign right here. And he immediately signs. Because once you get 40, he ain't trying to move and play for no other squad. Now, the problem for that team is what happened to the defense?
Well, they haven't had a great defense for quite some time.
It seems like their defense continues to get worse each year. It was great to see Gronk get loose on the long touchdown pass. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he left the game due to a groin injury. But, man, that Saints defense is still not able to get much out of the two-headed backs of Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram.
Didn't like Gronk's haircut. Moving on, a win is a win, but the Panthers did not even manage a touchdown against the Bills. The Panthers with Cam and McCaffrey and Benjamin and all those weapons. They lost Olsen, but why haven't they been able to get the offense clicking the way they need to?
Well, you got to protect Cam Newton, and he needs to be more accurate. There were some missed throws. This entire offseason, people, including myself, felt like drafting Christian McCaffrey was going to help that problem. Mm-hmm. Because he's going to be able to dump the football down to them, turn around and hand it off to he and Stewart. They haven't consistently been able to gouge teams doing that. And lastly, their defense, while still really stout, were able to really stymie LaShawn McCoy, holding him also under 10 yards rushing. That normally doesn't happen.
After they squeaked past the Browns, the Steelers impressed against the Vikings, winning 26-9. How impressed were you by this Steelers win?
Well, they have Big Ben under center, more activity by Le'Veon Bell in this game. Antonio Brown still caught a number of balls, but Martavius Bryant was the key.
Yep.
He's a medicinal habitual medicinal
medicinal
And he was out there on the field, and before you know it, boom, they stymie the other killer bees. He's able to get loose for a touchdown that was much needed by the Steelers.
I like the Steelers with Bryant. When you got Bryant and Brown and Bell and Roethlisberger, so many bees. I love it. I love the Steelers offense. How dangerous is this new young combination of Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt?
Explosive is the thing that comes to mind. Players that's getting 50 and 60-yard touchdown passes and runs like it's no big thing in their first year for Hunt, second year for Hill. And we got to start talking about Andy Reid. When you look around the league and you're a head coach, but yet 5 of your coaches are coaching other football teams, that says a lot about what you're able to do on the football field for a team. And what we continue to see from Alex Smith and Travis Kelce is really impressive.
It really is. And sure, the Raiders beat the Jets, but all that matters was Marshawn Lynch getting hypey on the sideline. Just going. I love it. I loved it so much. I loved it. You heard the Jets kind of saying that it was, I don't know, they were bothered by it or disrespectful or whatever. What did you think? Just keep going. Just dance. Just keep going. The game was 45-20. The Raiders' first 2-0 start since 2002. They won 10 straight non-divisional games. Crabtree had 80 yards and 3 touchdowns. Why'd you stop dancing?
What? Initially, the kinship between Detroit and Oakland started in the 60s, and it was politically charged. It got remixed in the 90s when the Pistons were winning championships as the Bad Boys, and the number one artist in the world, MC Hammer, embraced the team. And hip-hop was also embraced by the NBA when You Can't Touch This became their theme song. They Put Me in the Mix video in Detroit. Then you fast forward to me being involved in that movement, going to KMEL Summer Jam. Big shout Mark Curry, Lionel B, Too Short, E40.
Big shout Mark Curry. Big shout to Mark Curry.
Exactly.
I love Mark Curry.
So of course, and here's the thing, Jets. The one thing I love about football, what position does Marshawn Lynch play?
He's a running back.
What positional players were upset about his antics?
The
defense. So you have a chance to stop him.
You could.
That's the one.
You could.
See, in the NBA, when people doing all of their things, and you can't really elbow them a flagrant foul. But in football, you can let them have it. And they're in the AFC. They played them again.
We gotta go faster.
To see if they try to have some get back.
We gotta go faster.
I told you Michael Crabtree was going to catch 2 touchdowns.
Jalen, we only have 10 minutes to get through 14 games, and you're going to talk about Oakland and Detroit for 3 minutes.
Well, there's a reason why you're talking about a handful of them first, because you don't care about the rest of them as much.
Titans beat the Jaguars. Are the Titans for real? Go quick.
You don't care too much. Only Jaguars you care about is the JRLA Jaguars.
That's right. Jacoby, how you going to throw a pick in overtime? Come on, Jacoby. You took the team to overtime. You're going to bring the Colts to one of the worst teams in the league to a win. He's going to throw a pick. It was a bad pick, too. Moving on from that one. Is Jared Goff good, or is Jared Goff Jared Goff?
I know Todd Gurley's good.
Todd Gurley did look good in this game. Did you see that
amazing leap?
He looked good in this game.
That led to a touchdown run where he landed on his feet in full stride?
Yep. The Ravens beat the Browns. The Ravens had 4 picks. Kaiser had a migraine, threw some picks. They had to bring in the backup. Things don't look great in Cleveland, but the Ravens are kind of secretly pretty good.
Remember this when you're watching the Ravens play defense. They want to get physical, physical. They want to get physical. That's what I like about their squad.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dolphins are undefeated. Undefeated. Naked rear end Jay Cutler led the Dolphins to victory over the Chargers. Do you think the Dolphins will lose a game this entire year?
I think the Dolphins go undefeated because they're led by my good friend and owner, Stephen Ross, who I saw at the game on Saturday. He told me in Ann Arbor that the Dolphins was going to win.
Just last week, Molly Karam and Jalen Rose put their head together, came up with a new segment for our show called Socially Awkward, and now Kevin Durant made it perfect. It's time for Socially Awkward. Kevin?
KD?
Mr. Durant?
Iceberg Slim?
Slim Reaper? Kevin? You?
champion.
Let me explain.
Finals
Let me
MVP?
explain what the Finals MVP has been up to this summer. So it first started when he responded to a tweet from a dude named Cole Cashwell. Great name, by the way. Cole Cashwell tweeted, "Man, I respect the heck out of you, but you got to give me one legitimate reason for leaving OKC other than getting a championship." And then KD responded from his official account, he didn't like the organization or playing for Billy Donovan. His roster wasn't that good. It was just him and Russ. He then tweeted, "Imagine taking Russ off that team and see how good they are then." Kevin Durant is setting up fake accounts so he can respond to trolls and defend Kevin Durant in the third person, but Kevin Durant forgot to switch the account and tweeted it from his own account. Jalen Rose, what psychological itch is Kevin Durant scratching by going under an anonymous name and responding to trolls?
If this would make everyone feel better, other than elite athletes like a Kevin Durant doing this is something that has been permeated throughout our society once social media has become mainstream.
What do you mean?
Of course, this is an issue with Kevin Durant, but this is an issue, period, for those who frequent on social media. It has become an extension of one's hand. And I actually did some research for our fine program about this topic.
No, you didn't.
You ready for this?
No.
The average American spends 3 to 5 hours on their smartphone every day.
Okay.
3 to 5 hours.
What's it got to do with Kevin Durant?
The average person will spend 116 minutes per day on social media. So just think about what you just said. He has a Twitter account, an Instagram account,
a fake Twitter,
a YouTube account, probably a Snapchat account, probably posts IG stories, and he has multiple fake accounts. So basically, what this continues to prove is all of us, in particular those who care so much about what other people think, it's an insecurity of when you have to continue to go to social media to see what people that you don't know have to say about you. A lot of times people post something on Instagram just to get a self-esteem boost.
But why?
So all the people that tell them how great it is, and then the one person that says something they don't like.
Cole Cashwell. Like, why is he looking at this tweet from Cole Cashwell being like, "Oh, I got to respond to Cole Cashwell right now. I got to let him know the real reason that I left." Like, it just seems so strange to me. I understand having a fake account. I really feel like he made up a fake account so he could follow a bunch of IG models. His fake Twitter account was following 500 people. How many of those people do you think were IG models?
Probably 400.
Probably about that. Probably about 400. But the responding about him and defending him, but in doing so and accidentally not switching to the anonymous account, he's basically said, I didn't like playing for Billy Donovan. I didn't like the organization. And all of the rest of the players aside from Russ were trash. We're talking about Steven Adams, Enes Kanter, Victor Oladipo. There's so many players that he played with, Robertson, that he went to war with, that he was in the locker room, that he had over his house, that he now know what Kevin Durant really feels about him. How does it feel if you're one of those players?
Well, it makes you feel some type of way because you look at him and say, that's why you won league MVP and not us. That's why you're the headline. That's why you get paid the big bucks as the Olympian, the multi-time All-Star, the All-NBA performer. That's why we needed you to take us to the next level and lead us. Show us what it's like to be an elite level type team that can compete with the best of the best. And again, I want to make sure I stress, it has become an insecurity in our society when people continue to look down at their phones multiple times a day to care about what people who aren't writing their checks think and say about them. If everybody spent that level of care, time, and energy to focus on the task at hand, oh man, the world would be so much further than we are.
And here's the thing, before you get your Twitter account up and say something mean to me that Kevin Durant didn't play with Victor Oladipo, don't just save your time because I'm not going to respond to you. I'm not Kevin Durant. I'm not going to respond to you. So many people, like, when people say things to you, Jalen, I know you used to block people a lot on Twitter. Like, you used to, like, just say, no, I'm going to block them. Did you want to respond? Did you want to start a fake account to respond? Is there a part of you that says, ooh, I wish no one would find out and I could just go in on this guy?
Not at all, because number one, you would think somebody would start a fake account so they could go in on people and people would know who they were. Not to have somebody being their agent or manager on their timeline to try to make them look good. Mm-hmm. Initially, when I got on social media, I wanted to block every person to create a reputation that if you did send something to him, that he would block you. I did used to respond to people that sent me negative things and say negative things back. But that was only for my first period of joining social media. I don't care and don't do that anymore. And this is why I didn't join Instagram just yet. I might decide to do so one day. But again, we can't be so thin-skinned as public figures. And lastly, sometimes your critics, they're actually right.
You know, Ted Cruz saw this and was like, man, I should have had a fake account. Man, I didn't even know you could have two accounts. Ted Cruz is just like, man.
You need a man with sensitivity, a man like KD.
Next, another topic that we didn't get to cover in depthly on the television show is interesting because Kyrie Irving was on First Take. And I was so excited for Kyrie Irving to go on First Take. I was surprised. I was frankly surprised. I was like, this dude drove to Bristol. It's like he's got to have something to say. And he proceeded to just sort of do some verbal judo. And every time he would ask a question, he would deflect or flip another question into it. He didn't really take a stand and really explain his position. And he certainly didn't want to answer any questions directly about LeBron James. Like he kind of had the attitude like, you know, Tristan Thompson and Richard Jefferson are equal to me in my mind as LeBron James, which cannot be how he honestly feels. I know you watch First Take. It's the best hosted show on the network, the best hosted show on television. So what did you make of his appearance?
So I always draw a lot about what people don't say as to what they really mean, but for whatever reason, they're not articulating it. As somebody that's seen too much of Kobe Bryant, insert 81 joke, I'm a person that truly pays attention to teacher and pupil relationships.
Okay.
I remember when Jason Terry first got traded from the Hawks. He just re-signed with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think, and I'm happy that he's still in the league. One of my favorites, especially when he was in college. I rooted for that Arizona squad with him and Miles Simon and Mike Bibby.
Shout out.
With that being said, Avery Johnson was his coach and mentor. Initially, Avery was the assistant. And I knew that Jason Terry was taking those lessons so much to heart that when he spoke into a microphone after a game, he was not only taking the lessons and articulating them, he was sounding just like Avery Johnson. Like I was closing my eyes.
Hard to do.
And I was like, he literally sounds like Avery Johnson. And I say this respectfully because I appreciate young people who want to get better. I appreciate young people who want to be sponges. And when I saw Kyrie on First Take today, that was just Kobe Bryant.
Ooh, okay.
That's literally who that was. The pace, the delivery, the calculation of how he said what he said or didn't say what he said. The one thing that truly stood out to me, though, that's truly who Kobe is. Like, Kobe doesn't care about being liked. He doesn't care what the media thinks. He didn't care what his teammates thought sometimes. He was actually that ruthless individual that lived in isolation but was an all-time great player, and he didn't truly have the blinders on. He truly kept his blinders on all of the time. Kyrie may be becoming that person, but he's not necessarily there yet. So I took away from the conversation that, one, he had a problem adjusting from the time LeBron decided to come to Cleveland.
He brought up that period.
With the fact that this is a big adjustment for me as a player. Now, we could peel back and say, so let me look at their record before LeBron got there and what was he able to get accomplished. But those who have followed this program, I've consistently said this. Before LeBron got there, he was an all-star. He was an all-star game MVP. He was an Olympian, and he signed a maximum contract. So, yes, when LeBron James comes, and he was a young player, so I throw out the stats of their team for a guy that was 21 and played 10 games in college. He truly, in his head, didn't have a chance to lead the team. And I brought this up because he did it the last two postseasons, and we talked about it. After he had a great game, people would come to him and talk to him about, so what do you think about being the guy that plays with the best player in the game, but the best player in the game actually gives you the basketball the last 2 minutes to close it out? How do you feel? He's like, I feel confident in that. It lets me know that if and when I have my own squad, I look forward to that day because now I feel like I can do this. So that's the one thing that stood out for me. The other thing that stood out for me is that I think him and LeBron got something personal happen.
That's what stood out to me, too, because it's like he kept, every time the question was about LeBron James, he tried to deflect it away from LeBron James. When they asked him directly if he had spoken to LeBron James, he's like, why would you think I have to? And for me, once the trade goes through and everything is done, I personally would reach out to my former teammates and colleagues and just close the book. Thank them, whether it's a phone call or a text. An email, a present. I would just turn the page of that part of my life and acknowledge the championship we won together and the wars that we've been through together. And the fact that he never spoke to LeBron before the trade, he never spoke to LeBron after the trade, and he questions why he would even have to. You don't have to do anything, Kyrie. You just got to pay taxes and obey the law. But you should reach out to LeBron.
I'm 100 with both of them. And so I think I could give a true snapshot that's unbiased to acknowledge that when you say that you met somebody when you were 14 and you learned a lot from them, and all of a sudden you progressed to become one of the top players in the game, make it to 3 NBA championships, win 1 championship, not only with that player, but you said a key word, David Jacoby. This is why I love you so much. You said team. And when you've accomplished so little or so much with a group of guys, especially when you win, because players always refer back to a couple of periods of their career. If you ask them what are their most fond memories of playing, they'll usually say the team that they made the most money with or the team they won the most with. And or most of those players still live in those cities long after they retire because of those reasons, because they feel a kinship and a bond to that city. So if you feel it for the city, you definitely feel it for your teammates. And you got to find a way, especially your big brother. And what would have been interesting to know is if he talked to anybody on the squad, not just LeBron, is what I would be curious to know. But I was disappointed to know, as you mentioned, that he didn't text, didn't reach out after the fact. Because if something happened to this show, it's not only for you, it's not only for me to reach out to Jacoby, it's up for me to reach out to the other 10 people that work on the show, too. That's what you do.
Shout out.
And that's how you handle things like an adult and a professional.
We have a 10-person staff now? Well, I wish we had a 10-person staff. We would have so much more research. These
All right, well, let's talk about this then. No.
We got a little staff. We got staff. We got 10 people that rotate.
Rochelle. We got Wilds. We got John Lawrence. We got Pizza Cole. We have Curtis, Carlos. I know I'm going to leave somebody out. It's Harlan talking to me. Harlan.
Don't do this to yourself.
Baron.
Alex.
Reg,
Carlos. Alyssa.
Alex.
Reg.
That's 11.
All of our team of makeup artists. Yeah, we got a bunch of people working the show. I'm really glad that he went on First Take, but it did seem like he didn't have much of a plan. He didn't really have what he was going to get across. It just kind of, he was like, yeah, I'm just not going to talk about LeBron. We'll see how this goes. Shout out to First Take, though, for booking it. The best hosted show on the network.
No doubt about it. Way to represent him, Q.
Shout out.
Jalen Rose. I watched the fight with the Podfather. I loved every round. It went back and forth. It was excellent. Everything was great until the decision. And it was a draw. I'm having trouble processing this. Should I be more upset about the corruption that I feel in the sport of boxing or excited that I get to see that fight again?
You should be upset about the corruption that continues to permeate boxing, so much so that it stopped it from becoming mainstream because we get a lot of lessons from sports, but ultimately what we get at the end of a sporting event is a decision. This is why, they keep scoring sports, right? For that reason. Yep. And so what ends up happening is you were going to get a second fight regardless. It has nothing to do with the combatants. They gave us a great show. I think Triple G won in a close decision. He did a great job of being the aggressor.
Yep.
Canelo did a really good job of being a powerful counterpuncher.
Yep.
It was 12 rounds of what we hoped to see other than somebody get knocked out. But when you see one judge has it 118 to 110, you're like, oh,
and let me say this.
Man,
here's the thing.
on.
Let me just tell that judge, if you're going to be corrupt and you're going to score for Canelo, even though it wasn't really for Canelo, you don't have to make it that obvious. Like, if you're going to cheat, just make it 113, 115, and then we're not even having this conversation. Come on, Ms. Bird.
Well, we wouldn't be having this conversation because that's why you're able to use corruption, because it's almost like somebody got to that person with a bag of money saying,
no,
you're going to make sure Canelo wins in a landslide.
No.
And so since there's no governing body, no Adam Silver, no Roger Goodell, no person to give that level of oversight like we even see in the MMA with Dana White. And so now all of a sudden, it's like, who was judging the fight? What's their background? Where do they work? How do they get to judge such a mega fight? And Teddy Atlas, I love exactly what he had to say after the fight because I was screaming at the TV saying the exact same thing. And he gave me the opportunity to turn it up because I think he was the only person madder than me.
You stayed up for the whole fight and watched SportsCenter afterwards?
I did.
Wow, that's how you know it's a good fight.
Upset.
You know it's a good fight if Jalen Rose is awake past midnight. That's a good fight right there. They should have a rematch just for that. Like, oh, Jalen watched the whole thing past midnight? Oh, we're definitely going to have a rematch. Jalen, Kevin Hart's in the news. Not for releasing a movie, for releasing some other things. He's being extorted because someone has him on wax in some compromising extramarital positions, and he says that he is not going to negotiate with these people, and now the FBI is investigating. Jalen Rose, do you think there was a number at which that just got too high that he decided he wasn't going to negotiate? What number do you think that is?
I think the initial number had nothing to do with money. It sounds like his wife is going to stay with him and forgive him.
Okay.
That's number one.
Okay.
And then number two is like, they're like, she asked for $5 million. Oh, no, we're not paying that.
Yeah, it's like, how many $1 million? How many $1 million? Oh,
we're not paying
that.
I'm
definitely not negotiating. But you know if the number started out somewhere normal, somewhere like 100,000 or something, he would have been like, yeah, okay, we can work with this.
And the reason why I said that is because if he didn't want the wife to know the details, he would have paid the money.
Yeah.
Well, she clearly must know some of the details, and he had to fess up to what he did, so now he's like, I ain't paying the money.
You know what? I'll never have this problem. A, because I won't cheat, and B, my wife would just kill me. You know what I mean? I would just be dead. I would just be dead. It would just be that simple. I would just be a dead person. So there you go. Thanks so much for watching, Jalen and Jacoby. We'll be back tomorrow.